Next up, we have Andy Beckwith with De Grey Mining. De Grey, I think, Terence, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they've been nominated 3 times now. Twice? Okay, it's definitely the second time, because I've spoke with Andy's colleague before and did an interview with him as well. De Grey, $2.4 billion company already. They're exploring the Pilbara Grayton up in Western Australia. Really, really interesting prospects. A true tier 1 asset, because the production profile talks about over 500,000 ounces of yearly production. Really interesting. Unfortunately, Andy can't join us here in Amsterdam today. So Willem and the team recorded a video just a few weeks ago, or just a couple of weeks ago, that we're going to show you, and we'll proceed afterwards and maybe save some questions for him as well. Thank you so much.
Well, Andy, great to see you again. The first time we met was late 2017. We had dinner in Perth. You invited me to come to the project. You invited us to be part of a financing, so you were able to drill and make the Hemi discovery. Is that your recollection as well?
Definitely. No, they were good times up on site. Yes, certainly the capital raising mid-19, that's what really found Hemi, and you guys were part of it.
And that was a very low valuation, you know, you were trading at 5 cents. Now you're almost 170. So what has happened? You know, it has been quite a ride for you guys.
Look, the Hemi discovery has been an amazing journey. It took a little while for the market to understand what we'd hit, but after that, it's just gone ballistic, basically. It's a major discovery. It's in the Pilbara, which nobody really considered that prospective for gold previously. And now we've reset the thinking on the Pilbara in terms of gold.
Yeah, because this is really a game changer. I traveled to the Pilbara first time in 2017 to check it out. I was surprised how underexplored it is and how much metal can be found there, not only gold, but also lithium and nickel. So what has changed in this perspective about the Pilbara in recent years, especially after your discovery?
Look, our discoveries basically put the Pilbara on the map for gold. You know, previously it was big iron ore mines, big lithium mines, more than anything, and big ports basically. So yeah, look, the interest in the Pilbara has just skyrocketed. Tenements are very hard to get around us. I think the first year we put the Hemi results out, there was about $150 million raised by other companies to explore around us. So it's just lifted the bar immensely.
So what has changed for you personally because of this discovery? You must be working even harder now.
Look, yeah, we've got, personally, it's just exciting. There's no other way to describe it, geologist's dream. But basically for the company, it's been, you know, we've been on a huge rapid building phase, let alone drilling phase and resource growth. Building the people is probably the most interesting thing for me.
So how big is the team now? Because in 2017, you were just maybe 4, 5, 6 of you in the fields, and now?
Yeah, no, I was the first geologist in the revamp of, or the reincarnation of De Grey. It's been around since 2002, but our management group took over in roughly 2016. I was the first geo on site. We managed to convince them to stay in the project, actually. And then since then, I think we have 35 geologists now, a team of about 100 on site now. I think we peaked at about 160 during the drill out last year. And that's only getting bigger. And that's not including all our consultants that are working on the DFS right now. Just continually building.
Your market capitalization when we met in 2017, what was it, 10, 15 million?
Back in 2017, it could have even been lower, I reckon. And then...
and what's it now? What's it now?
It's 2.7 billion, I think, is the last I heard.
Yeah, it's been an amazing run. Well, let's stop this introduction. I'll give you the floor. You have 20 minutes to tell the world all about the Hemi discovery and why it's so significant. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us present here today. I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce Hemi. It's a Tier 1 gold discovery in the Pilbara of Australia. We have to do the standard disclaimers of forward-looking statements, particularly relating to the mining potential production. We'd also like to acknowledge our First Nations people. We particularly work on the Garryara areas where Hemi is found, so we'd like to thank them for their trust and support. Quickly just mention the board of directors. We have a fairly experienced board. We've been trying to beef that up, and that's occurred with introduction of Paul Harvey more recently, and then Emma Scotney even quite recent again. I think the thing that makes the De Grey team stronger is we're continually building our management team, experienced people. We're building on all the things we require going into the transformation from exploration to production. So a lot more in the community relations, risk and management, and in particular people and capability. We're building a big team. And probably the most recent addition is Peter Holmes. Only in the last month or so, he's come on as project director. He is actually going to build the Hemi plant, etc. So he's very invested right now and rapidly getting up to speed. I'd also like to acknowledge our team. You don't find things without people. It was a small team. Now it's a growing team, and I'd just like to thank our staff and contractors and consultants and other service providers, and also the board for our support that we get to drill more holes. So what is Hemi? Hemi is actually part of the Mallina project. It's in the Pilbara, northwest of Perth, or north of Perth, in what we call the Pilbara region. It's a geological region very similar to the Yilgarn, where Kalgoorlie hosts a lot of gold mines, but it's never really been recognised as a gold project area, a gold target. And the Hemi discovery has rewritten that. Hemi is a new style of mineralisation hosted in intrusions. We've rapidly taken it up to 8.5 million ounces by itself, and the whole project up to 10.6 million ounces. We've completed a feasibility study which shows it's technically viable, financially attractive, and we've put out our first maiden resource now of 5.1 million ounces at 1.5. That was mid to late last year, and we're currently doing a DFS which we're targeting for mid this year, probably third quarter of this year, hopefully. The PFS last year showed that the Hemi and the Mallina project in production could rank as high as the third biggest in Australia. So that's showing the 5-year and the 10-year sort of production profile. So it slots in there sort of as third against our current production peers. Average production will be around 540,000 ounces per annum for the first 10 years. Total mine life is about just under 14 years, 6.4 million ounces. And as I said, we're hoping to be certainly top 5. Things might change by the time we get there, but certainly it's a tier 1 Australian gold mine potential. So the resource, as I said, was 10.6 million ounces. That's made up mostly of Hemi with the 8.5 million ounces here. But we do have what we call the regional deposits. The Withnell Mining Centre, which is west of Hemi, with 1.6 million ounces, and then the Wingina deposits, which are roughly 500,000 ounces to the east, for a total of 10.6. And we're looking to grow that continually. And we'll be expecting to put a resource out probably late this quarter, just an upgrade. So where are we today? We basically are a tier 1 project, tier 1 gold mine in a tier 1 jurisdiction. We've completed that feasibility study, as I mentioned, and more recently we've just signed a mining agreement with the Garryara people late last year, which allows us to go into the mining phase. The mining leases have been applied for and we're waiting for grant there. A lot of the work in the last 6 to 12 months has been de-risking with infill drilling and any metallurgical test work and geotechnical work required for the DFS. At the same time, we're advancing the financing of the project, and we've had strong interest from many of the banks. What I'm going to do now is take you through a video to show you a bit of scene setting on how So you can put it in 3D in your mind. So we fly 2 hours from Perth up to the Port Hedland. And the Mallina Gold Project represents one of the largest gold developments in Australia, undeveloped at the moment. And the yellow area you see there, that represents our tenement package at the moment. And it covers a lot of the Mallina Basin, in particular, some very strong structures that control mineralisation. We're located close to Port Hedland. We're very fortunate to have very good infrastructure near us with major power lines nearby, a major gas pipeline, and we're 85 kilometres by road to the project, and 90% of that is on sealed highways. As we zoom into Hemi, it's 8.5 million ounces. That's been defined in 2.5 years. We've probably done 8 months drilling since then. We've also got the regional deposits adding another 2.2 million ounces. So all up, we've got a very sizable resource. Now we're zooming into the Hemi area. It's a sand plain between two rivers. And this is really the drilling history. So as you see this, we'll just take it through time over the last couple of years. November 19, the first drill holes, Aquila and Brolga. And as we step through the time, you'll see as the drilling grows, and you'll see the focus on drilling out the deposits. The discovery of Falcon came after a Crow, and then as we go further, towards the end of 2020, we get onto Eagle and then Yukon, and they grow rapidly. And as you can see, a lot of the drilling is focused on infill drilling. You'll see lots of orange and red and purple dots start to appear as we do the infill drilling. We've been drilling air core drilling. The drilling that's further out is mostly air core drilling, and that basically helps us target the next phase of drilling to find the next deposits. So we've drilled nearly 1 million metres, or over 1 million metres since discovery. What we're seeing here now is a 3D view of the drill holes and the mineralisation and the deposits coming on. And the most important thing here is just to try and get an understanding of scale. We're talking deposits spanning 3.5 kilometres by 2 kilometres. They're open at depth, and it still has a long way to go. These are just the individual resources making up the total Hemi resource. And now we'll zoom in and show you, this is the applied for mining lease and the bit of the mine design. You'll see the access road coming in from the highway from the east. We come into the plant site, just in here, the ROM pad and the pits, and these are the tailing dams. So we'll zoom in now and have a quick look at where the plant and what it might look like. That's being refined now as part of the DFS. And you'll see the pits in the proposed pits in the background. And the main thing here I'm trying to show is these are all open at depth. They can get bigger. They potentially can go underground, all of them, with higher grade intercepts or very broad, low grade intercepts that could be bulk caved. A long way to go to test up the underground. So really, it's well positioned on a sand plain between the two rivers, about 10 kilometres from each side. So I just wanted to sort of set the scene. Willem came in here with some money, roughly. We raised a heap of money to go and purchase half of the project, and then we went exploring. And we actually hit Hemi in November 2019. But as you can see on the share price, nothing really happened. I think the share price remained at 4 cents at the time for nearly 3 months until people recognised what Hemi might yield. So now we'll walk you through the next 2.5, 3 years and hopefully give you some feeling of the discovery. The other thing to notice on this is just the rapid growth the company has had. It's had its ups and downs as people wax and wane in enthusiasm, but 6.8 was our first resource for Hemi, and now it's 8.5. And the best thing that's happening at the moment is we're making the infill drilling that even a stronger resource for the DFS and reserve statements. So what happened, basically, we were exploring the regional deposits and expanding them, and Taurana in particular down here to the west. That's the first recognition that gold occurs in intrusions, and that style of mineralisation hasn't been encountered in the other deposits. But we recognised that was actually a high growth type target, and I asked Alan to go back and redo the interp looking for intrusions, and that was our model, to go looking for intrusions that hadn't been tested. All the other deposits occur on subvertical shear zones. So this one was different, and it made us rethink everything. So in 2019, July, we put out an exploration release that said we're going to go and look for what we thought were high-value intrusion-related style mineralisation, and that's paid off. This is the area that we had some intrusions mapped in the Hemi area, and there was basically 5 targets. 4 of those had drilling already that showed there was anomalous gold, and it was Hemi Fager that didn't have any drilling, and that's now been shortened to Hemi. So that's been the targeting, and then we've completed the drilling, and you saw some of that in the movie. So the first results that we put out at Hemi were basically 43 metres at 3.7 and 25 metres at 2.7. Now these holes were 640 metres apart, with holes 160 metres spaced along the lines. So very wide space drilling, but we really didn't understand too much what was going on at the time. We thought they were fabulous results. We put them out in December 2019 and nobody took any notice. The share price didn't move. These were the first cross sections. This ends up being Aquila, this one, and this one ends up being Brolga. And hopefully over the next few slides I can show you what the difference is now. This was the interp at the time. How do they match up? In the end, Aquila has gone this orientation, and Brolga is now a big blob just in here. So hopefully a good thing to understand that you're not always right on your interpretations. So anyway, we're here now. Market hasn't even recognised us here, and it's not until February that we actually get to make a reaction on the market. So for 3 months, you could have bought us at 4 cents. This is when the market recognised that we might have been onto something. We started to drill Aquila, and we were getting very consistent mineralisation, subvertical. And this on the right is just to show the individual grades in that mineralisation are very consistent. And that's what got the market excited. And then Brolga, once we started drilling Brolga after that. This is Brolga after a few holes. A very different style of mineralisation, massive mineralisation. These, intercepts of well over 150 metres. It's extensive mineralisation, very consistent, and it remains open at that time. This is Brolga now. I think this is a section 20 metres across from where that last section was. The red section here is the proposed pit in the PFS. That's what we call the starter pit. And that pit alone pays for the development, and it pays it within 2 years. The blue pit is the final pit outline on this section, and the Brolga pit is a very special pit in that regard. And why I say that is most pits, open pits in Australia, sort of would average anywhere from 1,000 to maybe 5,000 ounces per vertical metre. 5,000 would be very rare. Brolga alone is over 6,000, and at times, certainly in the open pit, starter pit, it's 10,000 ounces per vertical metre. And even the other individual deposits are quite high, generally in the 2,000 to 5,000 range. So 23,000 ounces per vertical metre, unheard of in most deposits in Australia. The other thing I wanted to show you was back in 2006, 2007, De Grey actually drilled 2 holes, a line of drilling through Eagle, and they didn't hit bedrock, and they were so close. And now I'd just like to show you what that section looks like now. Basically, we have high-grade mineralisation virtually under those holes, so very unfortunate for the team at the time, but thankfully we've found it now. Ducon is just to show that low-grade initial air core results that you'll see quite extensively in our package that remain untested could yield bigger things. And I think this slide has a high impact because underneath those 2 shallow low-grade hits, this is what we now have. It just shows you the potential of some of these air core holes where we don't understand what we have now, and we haven't done the drilling, and we're about to start that phase from now on. This is just what you saw in the video, just showing you that slide to show scale, and the fact that they all remain open at depth. This is showing a bit of potential. This is at Yukon. This is the PFS pit shell mineralisation still extending below the pit. So if the gold price gets higher, maybe those pits get bigger. But the main thing we're trying to show here is there's mineralisation on wide step-out drilling at depth. And some of those are very broad intersections, some are higher grade intersections, and there is potential to go underground. Probably right now we think Yukon would be a very good underground target. It has things like 19.3 metres at 7.4 grams, etc. And that is really high grade veins that we see. So all of the pits demonstrate potential to go underground. The drilling just hasn't been done now. We've been focusing on open pit, defining open pit mineralisation. And this is just a picture of some of the Yukon core, some of the visible gold we see in the quartz veins. Quartz veins are pretty rare at Brolga, and it's really only Crow, Yukon and Eagle you see these overprinting quartz veins, and they have some higher grade vein visible gold with them. So it's just a slightly different style on the mineralisation. Now this plan is to show the amount of drilling that we saw in the video. Lots of infill drilling's been occurring for the last 12 months, and that is to beef up all of the resources so we can convert to reserves and maximise reserves inside the pit shell. Been lots of dedicated metallurgy drilling, geotech drilling. So a lot of the work is focused on detailed drilling for the DFS. What this slide also shows is large areas that have had air core drilling mostly and a bit of RC at Scooby, but lots of anomalous results. And if you remember that slide on Yukon, lots of these sections would actually have better results than the Yukon section. So we just don't know what's beneath all of these. Time will tell. We'll be drilling here for a long time. So this is an area just off Eagle, just to the west of Eagle. We're drilling right now with some extra RC drilling. So we're drilling deeper below a lot of these shallow air core holes. We've had a few good hits. Some nice high-grade stuff. So that's probably representing those high-grade veins we see at Yukon. But we also see 6 metres at 5, 6 at 4, 20 at 25 at 1. So they're really encouraging. So fingers crossed as we move out of Eagle and along the Antwerp trend, we'll build up some more mineralisation. So we've been talking about Hemi mostly. Now we're I know the last slide was just here in Antwerp, but there's a whole corridor of mineralisation through here that's untested outside of Hemi itself. And then we've got Shaggy that's untested properly. Mount Berghaus is a different style of mineralisation, but really poorly drilled. So we hope there's more potential there. The one area that our exploration general manager, Phil, he really likes this area is there's a structure that we interpret along here. It looks like there might be more intrusions along there that have never been touched. There's absolutely no drilling in that area. And we're starting a campaign of drilling this 6 months and hopefully start testing that area. So fingers crossed that we can come up with some more mineralisation to the north. But that is a 15-kilometre trend that's never seen any drilling within 20 kilometres, 15 kilometres, if not less, from Hemi. Now moving to some of the regional deposits. This is the Withnell lode. So this is the proposed pit in the PFS for Withnell. The yellow lodes are the existing resource. And more recently, we've been drilling to the south of the Withnell, and we're getting mineralisation in this location. The red is representing potential lodes. They haven't had enough drilling yet to determine as a resource, and we're putting a lot of drilling into that over the next 6 months and hope to beef up that resource at Withnell. I believe we've got the potential to double the Withnell resource at least. And then there's another 7 kilometres of mineralisation that has been only partially drill tested along strike. As we understand the geology more, we believe there's plenty of targets in this area alone. Elsewhere, we talked about Taurana. I haven't shown too many slides on Taurana in this presentation, but Charity Well is similar style mineralisation to Taurana, and Taurana hosts in excess of 500,000 ounces, and that is the deposit that made us look for the Hemi style mineralisation, the intrusion mineralisation. What we're seeing here in early drilling is at least 1 kilometre of known intrusions and some very anomalous gold mineralisation in this area. But we believe there's another nearly 2 kilometres to test and other targets of what we propose as intrusions that have never been tested undercover. The reason we haven't drilled to the east is simply we just have to get some heritage surveys. They've now been done and drilling's underway. So we are testing probably a 4-kilometre trend here of Taurana-style mineralisation, we believe. And just to put things in perspective, Taurana would virtually fit between these two lines of drilling. That's the scale of Taurana, and we're talking something potentially, a trend at least, that's eight times longer. So fingers crossed that this is a growing target, and we have a lot of hope for this area. Regionally, we have 150 kilometres of continuous tenure. What you see here, the red is what we target as shear zone mineralisation, so related to structures. Most of them are partially tested, if tested at all, undercover. And then the purple areas, this is Hemi in here with the purple intrusions. Many of that's interpretive, but we believe there's a whole range of intrusion targets along our tenure, and we are embarking on a much larger program of regional drilling. Now most of the detailed DFS drilling at Hemi is over. We've virtually finished all of that now. We're stepping out, we're pivoting back to exploration. So what you'll see over the next 6 to 12 months, at least, if not longer, will be a concerted effort to go and test outside of the Hemi resource, certainly along the Hemi Greater Corridor, and then other areas like Charity Well, which sits in here. Taurana's having further work, and there's other targets. Withnell, we get doing lots more work. So there's a heavy push towards exploration over the next 12 months. So hopefully we can continue to find more mineralisation and build on those resources. So we've talked about the PFS quite a bit. The DFS is happening right now, and that is obviously taking it up to a much higher stringent level of study, which we can do financing on. So a lot of the work has been going on of increasing the resource base at Hemi and building the resources up elsewhere. A lot of the work has been about optimising the pit shells at Hemi, and that has included a lot of infill drilling and extension drilling to maximise reserves. That coincides with increasing the indicated mineralisation because the drilling's more robust and more detailed as the result of increasing reserves. The other thing that we're doing is bringing in probably Taurana and Withnell into reserve status. They are the first two regional deposits that we expect to be mined outside of Hemi. Hemi is the main driver and the backbone of the whole project and is a standalone deposit in its own right. These would be brought in at a later date. The other thing is, as time progresses, there'll be some potential to bring in underground. Because as we're taking the pits down, there is the potential to bring in an early underground, which would help production profile, we believe, as we move forward. And obviously, the new drilling that we're embarking on now is about finding new discoveries and extending current resources. So that's obviously where we believe there's a lot of potential still left in our 150 kilometre long project. So where else are we heading? We're completing the PFS and all the project studies. Most of the physical work has been done other than finalising engineering and development schedules and cost estimates. So we expect to have most of that done by mid-year. So we're sort of hoping for third quarter would be when those results would come out. We're pushing approvals, so statutory permitting, mining lease grants, environmental approvals will be submitted shortly. We've already started talking to banks about funding and the strategy there, building up to a final investment decision later in the year. One of the things with the pressures on the industry at the moment is long lead items. So that's a key focus of us. What do we need to order early? And that's certainly where a project director is focusing right now. Organisational capability. I mentioned this about early in the presentation. Our team is invaluable, and we've been building that and increasing our capability so we can build this and transition from an explorer, which we believe we're pretty good at, and we need to build this. So we're building that project team, that development team, and then there'll be the organisation going forward through production. In the meantime, in parallel, we want to keep that exploration going. We believe there's many more to be found up here. This project area, we believe, has the potential to keep finding discoveries for the next 10, 20 years. So I can see a long life here. We've already see Hemi at nearly 14 years. And if we add some more discoveries, I can certainly see a 20-year production history in the future. So fingers crossed that we draw the right holes and we attack the right areas. But that's what the focus is on. So I'll finish up there. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
What an amazing story, Andy. You must be a proud geologist. It's quite rare to make a discovery like that.
Look, I think there's a few of us proud, not just myself.
So I know you want to build it into one of the larger new gold mines in Australia. But we all know the majors like Newmont and Barrick, they are on the hunt for discoveries like this with a size like this. So can you stay independent?
Look, we believe so. We've done our own internal assessment on what's best for shareholders, and all of the numbers and all of the spreadsheets say the best value is to build it ourselves. Obviously, we can't 100% control what others do. Look, I would be amazed if the bigger companies aren't looking in depth at what we have. But in the end, we are setting ourselves up to build this. That's our focus. Obviously, others would be looking, and rightly so. But the best value for our shareholders would be to build it, is our belief.
Would you be interested in a scenario that you'll own still 20 or 30% and you'll develop it in a joint venture structure with some of the majors? Or?
Like I said, all of the spreadsheets and versions that we can think of, the strongest value is to build it ourselves. Financing is probably not an onerous task as for most, compared to most developments. The Hemi deposit is special. It's a rapid payback, high profitability. The financing is probably not as difficult as everybody expects because it's such a robust project. So yeah, I don't believe that's the best route personally. So I would still strongly believe we would be looking to build it ourselves.
How much money will you need to build it? It's over 1 billion, I think.
Yeah, look, the PFS was basically, I think it's just over 1 billion. We're waiting to, the DFS is really what we've got to hang our hat on. We're waiting to revamp all of the costings. That's obviously where the more detailed information will come from, and the financing will be based on that. So we're talking around $1 billion. But like I said, that Brolga starter pit alone is the crux of what drives the Hemi production in the first 2 years, and that is the big driver that pays that back quickly.
And how long do you need to be in production? 5 to 10 years, or?
Look, most of the slides I showed 10 years, but the PFS mine life was just under 14 years. That really doesn't. That's probably conservative in my mind. Gold prices going up, that would have been done at, I think it was done at 2,400 Australian. So, currently the gold price is 3,000 Australian.
Yeah, you're talking about mine life. I was pointing towards when can you start production and how many years?
Sorry, misinterpreted, sorry. Yeah. Look, we're aiming for 2026 sometime, probably later in 2026. But it is all subject to the environmental approvals first, and that's probably a time frame that we can't control. So, look, we believe we're a long way ahead of what we need to be. So, look, we'll target, we'll say 2026. Whether that can be achieved will really be up to the approvals process.
But that would be an amazing result, because then you go from discovery to production in 7-8 years, and that's quite remarkable.
Oh, definitely. You're really talking. You're probably actually talking only 6 years from discovery to production. Most mines, you're talking 10 plus, certainly in Australia. Hemi has had the luxury of, we were able to drill it out quite rapidly because of its scale. To be the ability to drill holes quickly, and in many times we didn't have to wait for assays. We could see the mineralisation and we kept going.
One last question. We traveled to the Pilbara for gold in 2017. There's a lot of gold to be found. But now with the battery metals, we know there's nickel, there's lithium. You even have a lithium project. What do you want to do with your lithium project, and how prospective is the Pilbara for battery metals?
We certainly have some lithium potential. It's been on the back burner for near on 4 years now. The board has been assessing what we do with our lithium. We actually have a couple of small base metals resources. So we are looking at that. We haven't made a final decision yet. There's a couple of alternatives. Do we drill it ourselves? Do we partner with somebody? So we're still working through that. Look, the focus has been on building Hemi and getting that going, and really they just haven't had the focus for the last 3 or 4 years. Elsewhere in the Pilbara, there's 2 big lithium mines only 40, 50 kilometres south of us. We've got the right rocks. We've got some interesting anomalous results initially, 4 or 5 years ago. Certainly everybody rings us to see what we're doing with it. But at the moment, we're just working through what we think's best for shareholders, how they get the best value out of it.
Well, we as shareholders would like to see a spin out of the lithium targets and tenements, because I think that might add a few, 100 million, maybe even more on value.
Yeah, and look, that's certainly been one of the possibilities in our assessment. So, we. Like I said, if that's the best thing for shareholders in the board's mind, that's probably what will happen. But we've got to work through all of that.
Well, thanks. Great presentation, and congrats on the nomination, and hope to see you soon.
No worries. Thank you, Will.
Well, definitely a worthy nominee. True tier 1 assets, and plenty of them within a belt. So really worth taking a look at.